Listen, for most North Islanders in particular, at some stage they are likely to have visited the central North Island and the high country around there and the Tongariro National Park and its surrounds. Mount Ruapehu, Tongariro, Ngārahoe. Listen, we all learned about them in geography, didn't we? There wouldn't be a person I'm talking to now who probably didn't come across them. And we learned how important they were in terms of the construction of this country geographically, but also in terms of some of the Maori legends. I always remember the one about Mount Taranaki getting really pissed off and deciding to bugger off and head for the coast. And all those sorts of stories, and that's how the rivers were formed and blah, blah, blah. It was wonderful. But in the midst of that too, there was this one particular building, or there were two in New Zealand in actual fact. There was the Hermitage at Mount Cook and was the Chateau Tongariro that were grand. And we always looked at as being grand buildings set in these amazing areas. Chateau Tongariro on the sides of Mount Ruapehu, which had been constructed in the 1920s, actually as a private venture to start with, but went belly up during the Depression, essentially, and ended up with the government owning it and running it for a good period of time. And it seemed a very successful institution of which we were proud. And you would, in actual fact, hear stories about Chateau Tongariro, its international visitors, and what it was doing for tourism in this country. Well, during that dreadful time of the late 80s, early 90s, when we sold anything that we couldn't nail down, it was sold to a Malaysian-based conglomerate as part of the state asset sales. And they put money into it, as I understand it, but then it all just went doof in 2008 in the financial crisis. Tourists stopped coming, it fell into disrepair, and then it was being closed, I think 3 or 4 years ago. In fact, it's closed to this day. What happens next with the Chateau Tongariro has been, well, a feature, it has to be said, of tourism in this country over the last 5 years. Weston Kirton, the Mayor of Ruapehu, in actual fact, is at Parliament as I talk to you now, trying to get government funding, as I understand, to presumably take back, or at least I think the Department of Conservation have the keys, to start and open again this magnificent enterprise and seek government monies to do so. Joining us now is the Mayor of Ruapehu, Weston Kirton. Weston, I'm bemused. Who owns the Chateau Tongariro now?
Could I just introduce myself though, Michael? Thank you for having us on your show, and your introduction was very well described. And I'm in the Parliament now, just handing over a petition that is reflecting the interest that the community has. To answer your question though, who owns it? The Department of Conservation have taken ownership of the building, of course, which was the owner's car who bailed out after their lease came to an end. So the Department of Conservation own the land. The Conservation now own the chattels and the buildings itself, and they are maybe in negotiation with CAR over some of the technicality of their lease. But the answer is that the Department of Conservation are in charge.
Okay, so why isn't it open then?
Well, obviously we have issues, and the issues are around the previous owners that were just mentioned. We also understand that there is a report on the earthquake strengthening and the seismic problems that go with it. That is, at the moment, a stumbling block. However, learning today, Michael, that talking to the Minister, Tama Potaka, he was saying that the government are now revisiting the status of some of these buildings, including the chateau, to see whether or not that's been overrated or underrated, whatever the language is, to say that it's in poor condition compared to the legislation. So there could well be some modification around that, not only for the chateau, but for every part of New Zealand that has buildings of similar ilk. But I just got to say, though, that what we've got here is a situation where the government, through the taxpayer, are keeping it open, keeping it warm to actually preserve the assets inside in anticipation that they come to the party with a roadmap to actually seize a future for it. Part of that is to get support from local iwi, Part of that is to get support from New Zealanders who see the merit of this to actually proceed. We have a heritage building here, Michael, that is second to none. We're a young country that obviously pride ourselves with some of the heritage we've got and own, but this building itself is over 90 years old and it's tired. It needs to have a revitalisation plan and need investors here. Can I just correct you in one point, and that is that we're not asking here today for taxpayer bailout. That is not the case like it was with the ski fields, for example. What we know, Michael, is the fact that there are investors here prepared to put their money up with their balance sheet and their vision and aspirations for this building, and probably a high-end building like it has been in the past 90-odd years. We have a person this weekend who will be joining in with local iwi and other representatives to actually, I guess, reinforce the fact that they don't want the land. All they need is space. They need to have the ability to pay back, and I use this figure, say $100 million, for example, of their money, to get a return. You can't do that in a short space of time, as you can appreciate. So let's test the government to see whether they have an appetite to pull down the barriers that they may have in front of us, and also to allow investors to actually have a window of opportunity, say 125 years is what has been talked about.
Okay, all right, okay. So here we go. So let me get this right. The building is owned by now the Department of Conservation, or it's run by them?
Well, it's each. I mean, the Crown basically is in charge of Department of Conservation through the Minister, of course. So there's ownership there.
Okay, so so the Crown owns the building. Cool, we've clarified that.
Yes.
Yes. And you say that there are private investors who want to come and presumably earthquake strengthen the building, revitalise it, and then open it again. Is that what you're saying, Weston?
What I'm saying is that they want to get in there and have a look at it. There are about 5 interested parties.
Well, what's stopping them doing that now?
Well, Department of Conservation have this sort of no-go zone of the health and risk, health, safety, and the like.
Oh, you're joking.
However, we've moved. I am not joking, and they are paranoid about the safety of this, and yet I've been in there myself, and it's as though the lights were turned out, Michael, and you can set it up.
So let me get this right. They aren't allowing anybody to inspect the premises or go inside it because they're saying that the earthquake, is this right? The earthquake
yes.
strengthening means that it would be too dangerous to do so. Is that right?
That is what I'm hearing, and that's what my understanding is. The Department of Conservation won't allow individuals to go in there without a proper authority and all the kit that goes with it. Having said that, I think they're now modifying their thinking, and they're actually now, their language is to have expression of interest for the chateau, and they're moving forward with that. After today, with us actually presenting this petition, we are hearing now different signals from the Minister all the way down saying that they are now prepared to look at options, and that is to go to Cabinet with a proposal to allow investors to actually proceed on the basis that we can see this new build going on internally. So there is a light in the end of the tunnel, Michael. I don't want to beat up government over this because it's not useful. All I want to do is actually just make sure that they understand that the public are right behind us, and the petition says that, and also that the MPs that we've been talking to are being very proactive and very supportive. I just think we need to join the dots and just ask government, are they prepared to actually, progress this in a responsible way on behalf of New Zealanders, knowing that the taxpayer doesn't have to foot the bill.
Okay, all right. I'm struggling to see what the problem is here, to be honest now, Weston, now that you've explained that to me. I'm seriously.
It's complicated. Yeah, it's complicated.
Well, how is it complicated? I mean, just let them in.